I am unimaginably bullish on the team behind Axon DAO. In today's video, I got the opportunity to sit down with 3 of the members behind this team and ask them a lot of intriguing questions as far as why Axon DAO has been created, what their focus is, and how they are bringing their expertise of over decades of experience to the table to make a change for decentralized science. I am very excited to show you guys this video, but before I do, I want to make it known that I'm doing my best to get this video out before their pre-sale ends for their governance token. I will put all of the necessary links in the description of this video below, and just know that you need all the information in this video before you go make any decisions on whether you participate in that pre-sale. I'm just making sure that everything is laid out for you guys as clear as possible. So without further ado, let's get into this video. The best place that we can start this off is going to be if one of you guys are willing to kind of go through why you started this project. Why is Axon DAO becoming a thing for people to be watching?
We started Axon DAO for several reasons, but we discovered them, I guess you can say by accident in a way. Axon always served a need in healthcare. And when we got to this point with Axon DAO in 2021, we identified so many problems ranging from orphan medical treatments that served a purpose but didn't have a monetary value. There was just post-traumatic stress issues with veterans and ailments that weren't monetary and they needed treatment. So through our learning of going through telehealth, we just saw that blockchain served a purpose, and through a DAO, we saw that it could achieve those things. So we started on the quest to do that in 2021. But it took a lot of learning to that point and to now.
We had talked previously a little while ago how you guys have had Axon, the company, not Axon DAO, but for close to a decade at this point, correct? So you guys are well entrenched into the medical community at this point.
Yeah, well, I'm speaking from my experience, at least when we worked with New Hanover Regional Medical Center. It was a 5,000 person medical hospital network. We had to go through this 2-year RFP, request for proposal, for a bid to get a big contract with the hospital to provide HIPAA compliant communications for their staff. And through that process, we really understood how the inner workings were. Our founder, Dr. Willard, he was a lead director at the hospital, and he was also an ER physician. So he understood the acute, pain points that they experienced. And then also in 2018, we worked with a clinical trial company, and we were able to serve some, solutions for them. And then of course, in 2020, we really understood what their real needs were during COVID. So we have experience, at least from Axon's point of view. I won't speak for Tharusha or Mac. They also have a great experience in telehealth and really med tech in general. And of course, Tharusha is a scientist, so I'll let them speak.
Yeah, I think COVID changed a lot of things for a lot of companies out there. If you guys wouldn't mind going around, we'll start with you, Tharusha.
Yes.
Kind of going over some of your background and what led you to be part of this team.
Yeah, of course. So my name's Tharusha. I'm based in Sydney, Australia, and I come from a background of neuroscience. So I work as a postdoctoral fellow at a place called the Centre for Healthy Brain Aging here at the University of New South Wales in Australia. And I guess my background has been mostly in looking at Alzheimer's disease and neurodegeneration and brain aging. Mainly my field will be looking at blood biomarkers of Alzheimer's disease. So trying to find profiling blood of patients who've got Alzheimer's to see if we can find biomarkers that can potentially predict the disease or diagnose the disease earlier, as if you can kind of slow down the progression of neurodegeneration, it can have a lot of clinical benefit. So that's been my main area for the last maybe like 15 years or so. And then I also have a personal interest in psychedelic research, and I guess I'm trying to maybe incorporate some of that research into my professional career, and also through Axon DAO as well. And that's how I kind of connected originally with Axon DAO and DeSci as a whole. I came across DeSci maybe about 18 months ago or so, and got very, very interested, and then came across Axon DAO via Discord. And I guess my role with Axon has been more of a scientific advisory kind of position.
That's awesome. You know, speaking of Alzheimer's, I was just at Thanksgiving with my girlfriend's family, and her father's somebody at Thanksgiving was talking about Alzheimer's because he's a heart surgeon, and he was saying that there are two types of Alzheimer's, and one of which is accelerated via picking your nose, which kind of like blew everyone's
yes.
mind.
There was like, I think one study that came out linking those two things. Yes.
Yeah, it must have. Everyone there seems to be a doctor or something. Everyone on her side of the family. So we sparked like a hour-long conversation about picking your nose versus blowing your nose. It was quite the interesting Thanksgiving. But thank you. It's a very robust background. I'm gonna pass the mic over to you, Mac. You want to do a little self-shilling here?
Yeah, I mean, the funny thing is that we've been creating kind of decentralized science for years. Like I think that we started doing that kind of activities around late 2000s, and it's not even about telemedicine. It was, for example, interactive television for doctors, which was really funny because it was kind of interactive and also standalone with some other integrations, but nevertheless, it all was about how to find the common understanding of issues that we can see as a medical staff, doctors, or technicians in terms of the healthcare process. And this new approach to research is just like putting Web3 with all that is good in terms of the anonymization and voting and raising funds, especially when you think that, well, if you are a researcher, you need the money, you need funds to create the research, to create study, to rent a laboratory or devices or make some computation. Usually, you are not so, able to do all that stuff yourself. So the process takes longer and longer while you are at the academia, and things are moving not that fast as you would like to, especially when you have, good idea, you have some vision, you feel like you are onto something, and then, there is something missing. So this is like a decentralized science where you can bring quite fast people who know how to compute, how to create fast scaling, analysis, how to create algorithms, how to protect the health data, and for example, how to anonymize, data deliverers in a way that it's going to be super easy, HIPAA compliant, GDPR ready. All that happened somehow last year, and nowadays we are just like, I'm still surprised that DeSci is not growing faster.
Yeah, it's difficult because you assume that like innovative technology, everything just moves rapidly. And in some capacity it does. Like we're moving faster than regulations, that's for sure. But it's taking a lot of people a while to kind of like come around to the idea that you can in fact decentralize a lot of the process that's going on here.
Yeah, and a lot of it comes from need. It comes from a need like during COVID, when we had to connect with the clinical researchers with the patients. They had a need, and I think it forced it. Like with telecommunications now, how acquainted we are with these things now. It comes with the need, and I think the need is becoming overwhelming, and it's just gonna happen at some point, and it takes just somebody to break the ice. So we hope to be part of that.
Absolutely, and I think you guys are doing a fantastic job at it. We were just in the X space or the Twitter space the other day, and most of the people who were in there, to my shock, were PhD students or scientists who were actually conducting experiments and involved in actual DeSci, whereas most of the Twitter spaces that I'm used to are a bunch of crypto degens. So I think you guys have cracked it, and you're onboarding good people who are actually here for the technology to actually utilize something. I will put all of your guys' socials in the description below this. So if you guys are watching this and anything we say during this interview, during this podcast is intriguing to you guys, make sure you go check all of the links in the description and go pay these guys a visit, because I think what they're doing over at Axon DAO is actually going to be very powerful, which kind of, I think we've addressed it a little bit, but Desai, from your perspectives, if we want to go around and kind of touch on like, I guess just Desai from your guys' perspectives, like what fundamentally shifts from the current structure when you start getting into the realm of decentralized science?
To start off, I would say for me, I see this, obviously there's a lot that Desai can help to in terms of the pain points of traditional science or academia. But for me, I think probably the biggest one will be funding. So at the moment, a scientist kind of spends months writing grants and with very, very low success rates. So if we can, Desai, I think, provides a lot of alternative funding models that could help scientists get money faster, number one, and with less friction. And also another area would be publishing. So there's also, I think, is it called Research Hub? Oh no, Research Hub. So looking at ways that we can improve how manuscripts are reviewed. And for me, Desai is just a decentralized system to make science more open and collaborative, I would say.
Yeah, that's huge. That's going to be a huge sector of it. Everything you just said, I think, is like where most people's focus is right now. That's for sure.
Yeah. But one of the cool things that came up in that last X space or Twitter spaces was, I think, I forgot his name. Was it from AXON DAO? He was asking at the end, talking about, how can we improve academia? And then people were like, are we trying to improve academia or change academia? Have a whole new system? I think that's another potential of Desai, is are we going to have a whole new group of rebel scientists creating a whole new system of what academia is and what it means? Or are we going to improve the current system? I thought that was a really cool thought experiment.
It's a huge debate point right now. You get those people who want to dismantle the establishment, and then I myself am leaning towards the other side, where I think it's just going to improve upon the existing system. But Mac is back, so let's hear what Mac had to say.
No, the thing behind the centralized science is that it's a kind of protocol. And when you think about protocol, you can imagine that it's known and it's unchangeable. So whatever will happen, happened in kind of previously defined step-by-step process. And there is no place for chaos. There is no place for randomness. It's like orchestration of the process of the research. While the Desai is just research on steroids extended with blockchain and funding processes with crypto, it's basically someday will become kind of operating system. But whatever we are doing during the Desai process, we have to create first the research protocol and then follow it, because without it, it has no value. So for example, when Tarusha is creating her research study, there is a very strictly defined protocol and she has to follow it step by step. After all, there is I assume, I do believe you plan to create your publications and maybe even to look for how to matchmake, how to spin that research into some business application. Also, this is something that Desai is about, because it's not about basic studies. It's about making something that might be useful for business. It's like matchmaking, where decentralized communities, communities powered by decentralized technology, can vote, fund, and have a kind of ownership in this research that was created and then can be utilized by business.
Right. You guys are all familiar with the Valley of Death, correct?
Exactly. And that was the point I was making about the orphan drugs that we initiated this whole thing from. Yes.
Could you outline the Valley of Death for the audience here?
Just from my perspective, from the doctors and from we've learned, it just comes to a point where there's a useful product, therapeutic product or something, learned from a trial or something, that just doesn't have a huge monetary profitability to be marketed and funded to do various things. And so they just don't utilize those things for those capitalist reasons. And that was really the incentive. And it really came from Dr. Willard having a trial where they had an Alzheimer's drug that worked well, but because it only worked with a certain percentage and there was various aspects and degrees, they stopped the trial because it didn't, the profitability wasn't quite there. And even though it had usefulness for some parts of the population, it wasn't useful for that. And then I guess there was some other use cases for that drug for post-traumatic stress or something. I can't name the exacts, but it was essentially that is what sparked our interest, is to like, it's all because of funding. And that really comes back to where my, I guess you can say, expertise is ability to just kind of find different ways to analyze how those funding processes worked. And through the way blockchain can fund these things, we're able to do those things. And if we can really nip it at the bud with the funding, that fixes the valley of death problem, from my understanding.
And then also, just adding on to what Chris said, I think that's where like the power of the DAO can come in, because DAOs have the power to attract people with that common interest. Just say it is a rare disease. That's patients, doctors, family, anyone who's got a common passion for a particular area can come together in a DAO.
Yeah, DAOs are very powerful, and I think people are starting to awaken to what is possible with them. Speaking of what is possible with DAOs, I am curious what is possible with Axon's DAO. See what I did there? Do you guys have any studies that are currently in the process of, I know you guys are doing the token pre-sale at this point, and so probably don't have the ability to vote on anything, but have you guys been in talks with scientists at all to try and get front running some of proposals to the network?
Yeah, so I think in terms of projects, our initial project will be around microdosing and looking at voice biomarkers. So I guess in terms of scientists, I do have connections, and I think once we have some idea of initial budget, we can definitely get more hands on board to develop the protocol, as Mac was mentioning, because I think one of the important things for me personally is to have experts in the field, have a collaborative effort to design protocols, especially if you're trying to do more like a citizen science kind of approach. So I think, yeah, voice biomarkers and microdosing of psychedelics will be one of our initial projects. Not sure how much detail you want me to go into.
As much as you guys are willing to give up is fine by me.
I mean, Theresa, you could talk about some of the things we learned. We applied a paper to University of Texas, Dell Medical, for psychedelic studies for post-traumatic stress and postpartum depression. And Dr. Nemiroff, Dr. Fonzo, we developed a relationship with them, and we submitted a proposal via Theresa, thank you, and we learned the challenges. And really is that there's no clinical data on psychedelic studies, A, and B, they didn't have a way to do a security audit on these things. There's just no knowledge. They can't apply it to the current model. So that was the biggest thing. They were totally open to the idea. It doesn't work with the current system. So those are some of the things that I think we're going to find, at least from that use case. But Mac and I have also, and Mac more so, I lead it to him, we've been talking with all kinds of different applications for the system that we intend to build for DeSci and for this use case. We just need to get to the point where we have something to showcase and to apply. So we're building that, we're working on that, and it's one step at a time. But for us, it's to build this platform to grow, and that's really where we are. But I'll kind of lead it to Mac on the other studies we're looking at in terms of scientific research.
Well, the fun part happens when we move the comfort zone. I was always thinking to be close to something like a telemedicine, or maybe even creating an algorithm-based AI kind of solutions that can be utilized in hospitals. We have a project like this on our timeline. It's going to be moved to the future because we found by accident way more interesting ideas and issues that could be taken right now. So taking the Axon plus Voice project, it was about creating like a kind of biomarkers of the voice by looking for different states of mind, especially in the public service workers and healthcare providers. But we found the very interesting area of neurodegeneration. And here we are cooperating with two scientific groups, inviting them to utilize Axon DAO as a platform to perform some research. But the cool thing is that with all that experience we had before, we started making thoughts how we can integrate our technical efforts to create solutions that will be easily utilizable and kind of, we can utilize them in many different projects, like reducing the cost of research. And we found, for example, that the application that we are creating for Tarusha is also probably almost the same scope and functionalities we need for Apple's Voice and to other projects. So the idea is that we will try to follow some kind of areas that are within some spectrums, like neurodegeneration, microdosing, the health of the brain, the performance of the brain. We have previously made some projects in terms of the neural system and its performance, the influence of vitamin B12, cognizin, and other logically applied stimulants that can make you be more effective in terms of the power of your mind, especially when you think about older people, dementia, or things that happens to us after some point of time.
It comes down to the funding, and that's really the hardest part, I think, of starting this. Is somebody in a group, and it was kind of on our AMA the other day, that it takes somebody to just start testing the waters and see how this can be done, how it can be applied, and especially in our way that we've done it, from the Web3 community. And that, to me, seems to be the hardest part, is to not only set the structure up, get the funding so that we can apply it to the DAO, so that we can start operating. And then the biggest challenge we're going to face really is the legal aspects going forward, but just the education, decide what is it, this term. We want to make it so that it's just a thing that people know and just do. And to get there it's a lot, but we feel that we have the pieces of the puzzle to do that. It's just I feel like my job is to go through these processes of setting this up the right way so that it can be applied, to show that this is how it can be done. And we get through these challenges, we can really start building the right things for DeSci, focused in those different areas. But yeah, to get it to this point has been quite a challenge, but we're here. So yeah, thanks.
Yeah, you guys are very much so paving the way for a lot of projects. So you guys are doing a good job. Not to cut you off there.
I cut you off.
Okay, I was just going to mention that I think we've been talking about, no matter what the initial budget may be, we can definitely get some kind of pilot study completed with that budget. And just wanted to finish off in terms of the microdosing and psychedelics, just to give a bit of context or background to the actual research. Because we're interested in the voice, there's a lot of previous research looking at how our voice actually changes with our mental state. So in patients who have depression, not just in terms of what they're saying, but how they're saying it, and different parameters of the voice change with depression. So that's kind of where I guess the idea came from, because I would be interested in looking at how the voice changes in microdoses of psychedelics. And then the other aspect to it is, currently in psychiatry and psychology, a lot of the testing is done via like questionnaires, surveys, neuropsych assessments. And it would be cool to have an objective measure such as what's called digital biomarkers, which are things like the voice or heart rate, pulse rate, those kinds of things that you can get off your Fitbit, for example. So yeah, having an objective measure to complement the current gold standard, which is the neuropsych. That's just a bit of background.
Yeah.
The fun part is that also within this department, in 2007, 2009, I was responsible to create a platform that was observing the Twitter posts and was making large scale analysis in terms of the sentiment and mood of people and different things that can be, that push some factors towards the general statement or induce the community of people around some key leaders or key voices. We had a lot of fun with this, but later in 2014, we created something that was called the psychoprofiler. And it also was a solution that was able to make really crazy good assessment of who you are for real, just by observing like 7 different factors. Here we are making something a little bit less complicated because we are targeting the voice, but the voice has so many different, it's like a deep set of dimensions around the voice, and the complexity, you don't even, sometimes we are unable to imagine how complex is sonar. And here we are making something similar in terms of how the voice is recorded and how we, make the whole assessment on many different, spaces within this area. But this is just the beginning of everything we do, because the voice analysis, as Steph has said, is going to be connected later on with the other parameters that we will be able to gather quality data. This is also a problem with research, because you cannot build research with low quality data. But still, this is also a great space for community. And when you think, and like previously was said, consider like project patients like me, just the families around the problems, families around the people who look for help. So they are challenging, connecting them together, creating micro communities in the cities or regions, sending some information, looking for spots. Here we are making the same thing, but on steroids. With, on top of that, building a protocol to fund the research that will be scientifically acceptable.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the name is perfect for you guys because you're Axon DAO. Axon's like the most crucial part of the neuron to make sure that these neural networks and tunnels are actually like solid. So funding research, especially as Chris said, in an area such as like neurodegeneration or these voice applications, which I'm assuming you're going to have to use AI to calculate because there's so many data sets there that it's like literally impossible for a human to go through and do it all, to be able to diagnose things that otherwise get completely overlooked because it's like, oh, we can improve their quality of life by 10%, 20%, or realistically, like change someone's entire world, or we can go profit over here. And it's just kind of like one of the fatal flaws in the current system, not to blame it on capitalism, because I'm definitely a capitalist, but like, it's just the nature of late game capitalism is that you take advantage when you can to make a dollar. So I'm happy to see people like you yourselves all out here trying to do something genuinely to improve people's lives.
Yeah, prevention brings a lot of, every dollar spent for prevention usually gives you back $4, that you will not spend to give just regular health after all. And that was cloggy. Can someone tell it better? Sorry, guys. Tarusha,
I was going to
maybe-
add, like, I think one of the other advantages of DeSci is that we can help individuals gain like more control over their health. Like I think I mentioned last week, like Bitcoin is financial sovereignty, but DeSci is health sovereignty or health data sovereignty. And I think projects like last year that Stepan, those kinds of projects where people are incentivized, or you also almost gamify health and becoming healthy. I think that's another potential of DeSci.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's so many things that it solves at the same time. That's just what sparked my interest. I saw it and it was like, and then once I got into the Web3 community, and so, there's others that kind of understood that this intersection, it's so promising. There's so many things, it's so new, but from my perspective, that it can really integrate a lot of things together to do a lot of good for everybody involved. And it's a fair thing. And, there's just a lot of promise in all of it, and the time of the AI, computation and how things are starting to integrate in that area, as well as the legal parameters and things that are starting to unfold for us. We were intending to have a DAO, with the token years ago, but we didn't realize, all the legal hurdles that you have to understand and go through to do this the right way so that it can be accepted in some sort of a legal ramification. And because we started with, a bunch of doctors and other folks that we represent that have to kind of maintain a certain amount of distance from anything crypto, we've had to do it that way. We've had to make sure that we do this so correctly because they're tied to it and in some way. So that's just the thing. I've always tried to maintain this, and I feel like just doing the right path and try to go through those challenges the right way, and especially with the community, we can solve these things together. And others are solving those things from their own perspective and coming to the similar conclusions that we have. But there's a lot to do, but it's really cool. So I'm excited to even be part of it right now. It's a really cool time.
Yeah. And like I had said, you guys are actually paving the way forward for how most DAOs should operate. I think this is a perfect segue into the 2-token system that you guys have created, where it's like you're trying to comply as best as you can with the legal frameworks out there to make it so that there is no confusion about what's going on over at Axon DAO.
Yeah, there's no confusion and from our understanding, but before, if you just launch a token and expect things to come from it, and the idea of a fundraising mechanism for stock type ownership and things like that, there's a big line in between the two. And the idea that we're a DAO is awesome because you can set this security token over here. That's the ownership. It represents your ownership in this business and all the profits, distributions, and future rights. But what's cool about a DAO and the governance token is that you can have the community, people from outside of the ownership, to participate in any parameters that you set. So every DAO can have a different set of parameters for what the specific needs are. But for ours, it works really cool for the idea of DeSci, that you can start funding research and medical scientists to get access to money, so they're not spending all their time chasing money. It's really crazy that it's being impeded because of money, and because of a 2-token DAO, that we can have this governance token that publicly allows people to generate funds and use and pull from it. It can start becoming more and more of a decentralized thing where the community really has a say in more of the DAO. And over time, we hope that that's what becomes of it, that we have so many people that are interested and become part of it because it's a beacon that we have like a lot of great talent to come to join the DAO and show. Well, you can't do that really with just a regular LLC or a regular corporation as much as you can. And plus, with the 2-token DAO, complying with the US, we can operate with the security token, but in a governance token, mostly really, we can include everybody in the world. The security token, to be purchased, you must go through all these accredited investor, 506B, Reg D, all these things to be purchase the security token. But over here, the governance token, because it's just participation in something, it's not ownership. We can do things in such a different way that you really couldn't do before. It's just a really cool intersection of all these things, and it's brand new. We had to learn a lot to get to this conclusion, but yeah, we have a lot to share on that. If anybody else would like to, talk about that.
I feel like I can see Mac's brain churning. He's got something on the tip of his tongue.
How did you do that? How can you do it? I would like to point one thing in terms of the data and the privacy and the governance and legality of storing the health data. There are also other things like standards like CDA, CCDA, CCD, HL7, we basically, I mean, we know or DICOM, we know them all. We know how to use them. We were making architecture that was many times that was sending the data in between different systems, governing the quality of that. So at the end, it was valuable for everyone. Here, if you will consider, a few years ago, I was responsible for creation of medical device class 2A, and it was for pregnant women. And we were making a CTG recording. And I was very into building an algorithm that can be precognitively analyze the recording and make some assessments. But the problem was that we have a lot, but it was still not enough of the recordings to train the algorithm. If I would be able, for example, to, well, exchange or rent some of the recordings from different companies or from some hospitals, anonymize data, or ask mothers who have the recordings on paper even to share it with us, like scan, make a photo as good quality as possible, we would be able to create really very deep analysis and make something that would be able to analyze every recording in a few seconds before the midwife or doctor would look at it. That was not possible, but still it's absolutely doable. If you consider that in countries like United States, no one is making the manual breast test in terms of the cancer. It's all by the machine. It's 97% of the accuracy in terms of the machine. Of course, at the end, there must be last word from the doctor, and this probably will never be taken out of the equation, but still, with the higher quality of the assessment, on a daily basis, doctors, they are sometimes tired, overworked. Here, I mean, in every space of the healthcare, we can provide something that could change the system, not revolutionary, but just like a evolutionary, like make something that changes the human life and gives you the capability to consider more the patient itself, think about him.
And that kind of circles back to something that Tharusha had said earlier today with the data sovereignty. So I'm curious how you guys are managing that, because I'm sure there are a lot of women, while it's important that you like diagnose this stuff early, probably don't want information on their breasts being included in any studies. So I'm curious if you guys have any systems in place currently to deal with that.
If I may, it's a technical matter. Of course we do. We not only anonymize data, we use zero knowledge protocol just to, remove any kind of relation between exact person and the data. The most interesting part in this department is that we would love to have a lot of data given to us as a kind of donation, but it's not the case. So the project will pay for the health data from patients, as long as it's like a quality data properly recorded. We see that there is a space to exchange the data for AXGT tokens, right, Christopher?
Yeah, we can do all kinds of projects with that. I mean, technically, one of the things that I want to make clear, make a point of, is that every app you have, all of them are recording or have access to your voice, or they have access to all these different data sets, usually automatically or not. So, in terms of data access, these apps have your data now. So, where's it going and why? It's just really the most focal point of this whole thing is where's that data going and why? Because obviously it's valuable. So, you should have some rights to it. But now, because of all these crossroads of technologies and ability, that we can not only, give you some sort of access and right to that, that you can start getting value from it from your perspective of being, diagnosed with some sort of health pre-diagnosis, and that it can help, other, ailments, others maybe, seeking, so there's so many ways that we can do this in terms of the security of the HIPAA compliance, because there's a lot of things that are already happening that are taking your data without you're just clicking OK and you're like, you don't even know. So we're trying to do that in a more transparent way, because I think everybody already knows that we're at that point where everything you do is just being taken. So we're just trying to say, hey, you know, let's make a point here. And now we can start addressing these things.
Yeah, we all are, I'm sure, familiar with the 23andMe hack that happened not too long ago, where a bunch of, or pretty much everyone who had sent DNA into 23andMe got their genetic information hacked and for sale on the black market. And I made a video on it, and a lot of people were like, who the hell is buying this data? And I had to explain to people that like 23andMe was already selling your data to the pharmaceutical companies and stuff. It wasn't like the market's there and it's enormous. People want your health data.
There are dedicated companies globally that are preparing the analysis market research based on the last mile data from the pharmacies, from the different data points. And of course, they need this information to make some kind of statistical models. So company factory A or C knows what kind of products will be the best fit in which colors, on which market, in which part of the year. And basically, this happens, this is something normal, within them.
But one more point to make on the security, we will follow all HIPAA compliance standards and protocols, and we'll have it red taped, and all these bureaucratic things we have to go through to ensure that this is the case before we do anything. But we got to get there. We got to have our MVP. It's got to look cool and it's got to work. And then once we get to that point, we test it and get to that point. Then we red tape and go through those means. But yeah, we're going to follow all those standards to the utmost T. But we wish there's other ways around HIPAA compliancy, but there's just not. So we're just going to follow all the ways we can to, just make use of what's there. And I think we're just trying to be accessible there. And when the time comes, especially with the law and other things like that, that we can kind of be sitting in the ranks on the side, ready for this time, because it's happening. And I think it's just kind of be a matter of time. So.
And also, I'm not an expert and I haven't looked too deeply into it, but there are some projects who are actually creating their own kind of like decentralized Fitbit smartwatch kind of products. So I think there's a potential future collaboration between those kinds of projects and Axon DAO, where we can create our own kind of Google Health.
Well,
but the individuals have access to their data. They can remove it at any time, but they get paid for contributing.
Yeah, I would challenge anyone. I mean, it is doable, but try to move your data from most popular applications on Android, for example. I will not name names. It doesn't matter. The idea is that a few years ago, we created something like an MVP. Its name was the Medical Data Grid. It was just like a technical name for how to create a data silo with your health data, which is protected for you, anonymized, and you always can take it out of there. Like if we have a right to, to be forgotten, like pull out our information, anything that we share, it should work efficiently. And I was back then thinking that it would be cool that, for example, if I am at diabetes and I'm trying to research on my situation, and I work with the project A, and I granted them access to my data, like blood level, what I eat, stuff like that. And I feel like this product is not good enough. I would love to have this capability to pull out my data from it and give it to another project and see, what will be the result of that. So this is what we are aiming to. Like, this is where we are going. It's like every time when you consider, when you go to the doctor and he's like, how it was with your grandparents? Did they die because of the natural causes or maybe heart issues? We usually don't know that. You have even defined standard for that, community care document, CCD. And there are technical ways how to preserve such information. So even if you will decide to send the data to the modern system in your hospital or something, such data silo can prepare it and send it directly to the hospital, and they will read it right away. For example, in States, you have a standard X12 for exchange of the health data documents in between the institutions. It's all previously done. we should take it and start utilizing it also.
Yeah, and also to the point that we hope to integrate with other monitor systems at home, the new at-home psychedelic therapy type entities. We hope to integrate with all kinds of different, like you said, type monitor systems. There's so many. And actually, when we started talking with Dr. Nemiroff at University of Texas, he introduced us to so many great like API monitors. One was lit as a type of like thing for your eye that could determine all kinds of things about you from just looking at it. There's so many different things. I guess just on CES or the other day, they had a new thing. I don't know how accurate it is, but it can read your vitals from your face. I think it takes a couple shots of your face and it can read your vitals. So things are changing really fast, but where's this data going? And that's just a big question. From my past before Axon, and understanding that, and then to now, where's it going? And I think people should have ownership of it somehow. And like Mac was saying, you should be able to transfer it here to there to there to here, and it should have some sort of value to you instead of someone else.
Ideally, right? It is your data after all. So I'm curious, before I ask about the roadmap and any upcoming events or exciting things you guys want to express to everyone, this is more of a personal curiosity, but how do you guys expect to organize a giant like cohort study of psychedelics and like the self-reported use on that in America?
I think initially we're trying to hopefully partner up. It will be a global study, and we're hoping to partner up with companies that already produce these microdosing kits, mostly in Europe, like the Netherlands and in the US. And then we will have a protocol developed by other neuropsychologists and psychiatrists, where we will ask for a voice sample on the day of microdosing and when you're not microdosing. And then maybe some other tasks which haven't been finalized yet, but verbal tasks. And then on top of that, like the standard questionnaires around mood and depression, and maybe some cognition testing, and maybe also some creativity tasks. So it'll be pretty much like a protocol that the participants will follow. But in terms of the microdosing, it will be in collaboration with standard commercial kits. But I guess if there are people who aren't following the kit procedure, we'll have to collect the dosages and those kinds of demographic information. But I guess the important thing is that they do the voice sample on the day of the microdose and then on a day that they're not microdosing, so we can look at the differences.
Yeah, and just to make a point from what I know, Tharusha, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but the current trials in the little case studies are only like 30 people that they've done in the US.
There's only a very limited number of studies looking at voice biomarkers and microdosing. And yeah, like Chris said, very small.
That's very, very small.
But we could use their protocol as a foundation. That's what I'm thinking. Use their protocol as a foundation for our particular study. And we could also even approach them, some of those scientists, to be involved. That'd be cool.
That would be cool. I'm very excited to see how it goes, and would low-key love to participate. I'm a huge fan of microdosing. I don't know the legal framework behind me saying that, but like there's not an endorsement for you to go do that, but like I love it. I think it was super beneficial to me as a person. So
the interesting thing when it comes to the science is that there's so much anecdotal evidence of microdosing, but the science at the moment is telling us it's all placebo. So that's why I'm very interested in these objective markers, like digital biomarkers, because if we're just looking at the like the questionnaires, maybe they're not picking up the subtle changes that are happening.
And the voice won't lie when it shows that you're positively, at least from the algorithms, improving from this treatment or whatever stimulus you're getting. And it's not going to lie. It's going to be accurate enough to have some sort of, like you said, some actual data to prove that, hey, this actually works. Whatever the common method now is improving that. And that's why I think we connected with the folks at UT and other folks in the psychedelic studies, because it's kind of in the same realm of DeSci in a way, because we're both kind of like the underdog in a lot of ways. And even though people realize that there's a value to this, they kind of have to, kind of take a step back. So that's why I feel like we're in parallel with at least that field of study.
And also another thing I'm kind of thinking about at the moment is how can we incorporate a placebo into the study somehow? Because that's another issue with psychedelic research, is there's a big expectancy bias, because you can't really have a placebo because if you're tripping. So I think that's another area that I'm kind of looking into and trying to work out how we can have a placebo incorporated.
As always in a research like this, but consider that you can, for example, make the analysis of human, mental capacity, for example, while we are having some questions, or you assess your state from 1 to 5. We can, for example, ask each participant at some point of time, or every time when we are making the screening session of questions, like draw as perfect circle as you can, or draw as perfect triangle as you can. So, for example, if you consider that we are verifying the changes within the Parkinson early incoming disease, we can, for example, also assess that there is like a lowering quality of human hand gestures and ability to be precise. And this is maybe not super complicated from the perspective of the analysis itself, but it has substantial value. If you look at the degradation of neural system that we can at least slow down, or probably maybe someday just stop by, I don't know, physical activity or some kind of practices, or change of your food diet. This is going to be, if we are going to die someday, let's die because of the natural causes, like, as healthy as possible at the end.
I think the key there is as healthy as possible. There's one thing in expanding a lifespan and another thing in expanding the health span. And I am very excited because it seems like you guys are focused on expanding the health span. Very curious about the roadmap, and for each of you guys to express both, ideally, one thing that you're very excited about that we may not have touched on during this, and one challenge that you guys are foreseeing in the overall development, or whether that's adoption or legal, whatever. I'll leave that up to you guys.
I would say I'm most excited about creating our first project and getting the results, and getting some kind of meaningful conclusion that adds to the body of science in psychedelic field, or the AI field, or voice analytics, whatever the project is going to be. I guess using DeSci to add to the current state of the scientific body of knowledge in psychedelics would be super exciting for me.
Do you think that the timeline on something like that is like a decade-long time frame? I know a lot of people.
Well, okay, I guess it would depend on your definition of contribution. I would say, when I say contribution, I would say a research paper, a published research paper that comes from a study that was collected using DeSci protocol. I think that's doable within the next 2 years.
Nice. Awesome.
And in terms of challenge, I would say it's also exciting. A challenge would be how do we get traditional academia, traditional scientists excited and in wanting to be involved in a project or a study that is has its origins in the DeSci world. That's what I think it will be a big challenge, because it's just a very hard nut to crack, so to speak, in terms of changing mindsets of scientists.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are experiencing that right now, for sure.
Yes. Yeah, when I speak to even like younger scientists, I mean, they're excited about being involved, but then as soon as I mention anything like blockchain, they just kind of gaze over in terms of, they're not super interested.
That makes sense.
So that's a challenge I see.
How about you, Mac? Do you have anything?
Oh yeah, I mean, the issues that we are still having is raising enough funds to start research. The other issue or risk that, I mean, it's not a risk, it's a problem that scientific community is at least from my perspective here in Europe is having on a daily basis is this how we are able to, pay and create this research that we are really thinking about, while we have to adapt to expectations of our, professors or people who are over us. And I know a few scientists in my closest community here who are maybe not in healthcare, but they are making so interesting things. You would be super surprised what you can do with, for example, ocean grass. I mean, it's impossible, and they don't have funds to make. I mean, they are making products on their own after work, in home even, or but still there is no traction for them, and they are like looking at the time it goes by, and still those ideas are not even tested and implemented. I'm not saying even about it, but still they know that it would work. They want to make it happen. What I'm waiting for most, I think, is that we will create a lot of different algorithms. And as you know, in healthcare, the protocol and the algorithm is super conservatively changed. So there are algorithms that are known for 100 years also, almost, and they are not changing. How you assess some values, how you determine if it's like this type of issue with heart or something, how you assess the parameters in the blood test results, right? And I'm not saying that we want to change anything here, absolutely not. But first of all, I mean, so many research projects are going through the same pain point to find the best acceptable by the standards scientific approach to quantify some things. And I think that in this space is also a lot of space to create, and this is one of my ideas for the projects for later, to create something like I would call it marketplace, but it's like a system where you can find the best algorithms to make analysis within different departments of healthcare. So anyone who will take the part and risk of his time to make some research in the future, he will not have to make this research again. He will just know that stuff, and he can even touch or see the previously done analysis in the same health area. So he can think, is my research good enough, or idea for the research good enough to really make it happen? Or maybe I can make some kind of pivot, and I see something strange, and maybe I should follow this. So we will make the process way more efficient. Also, this is one of my ideas.
If nothing else, I think that will be the most beneficial thing to the scientific community that comes from. If all of this for some reason fails, like all of DeSci, that would be the most beneficial thing I could see.
Yeah, we have a lot of information, and we want to have a knowledge, but basically we're looking for wisdom. And AI, large language models, and algorithms properly set up and maintained, they can really help us to not repeat the same mistakes. Okay, thanks.
You get powerful. Chris,
Yeah.
One thing you're excited about, one potential challenge, and then if you don't mind going through the roadmap.
Yeah, I'd like to say that I'm excited about kind of what Mac was saying, that we're able to open up this wisdom that's already there together and give accessibility to this new idea. I see something so cool with being able to apply, in the future, some sort of way to show where artists and musicians and things can have some sort of therapeutic value through their work. I see something like down the road with that. That's an excitement down the road. Like Tharusha was saying, I think our really big day would be the day we have some sort of real applicable data to provide that we did through our efforts through DeSci. That would be a good day. That's very exciting to get to that point. And I guess I'll add a third thing. The excitement is just the fact that we're here at this time and place. It's just like one of those things that it's very rare. So we're kind of trying to make do. We are making do with everything that we have to our resources now. Again, but coming back to the challenges, there's always challenges. The biggest thing is just getting acceptance. We're finding acceptance is, who we are, what we are, our backgrounds, why we're good for this, vetted for this. Those are the challenges. But what's really cool about those challenges is that Web3 and this idea, this community, you can have people add value as they can. So there's no glass ceiling or walls to keep people from being able to provide. But the big challenge is just trying to get acceptance and getting through these phases of growth, without any other issues, just coming from compliance issues or anything like that. But we've done those things correctly, and we're going to continue to do those things. So it's just really, the laws and guidelines with that. Hopefully Gary Gensler doesn't come up with some haymaker and just, destroys this whole thing for crypto in general. But I don't see that happening. And I see that, again, the general acceptance is there. We just need to provide that thing that people can be like, oh, that works. And we'll be on the sideline waiting. So that's the excitement, but there are challenges for sure.
As is life, right? That's a strong metaphor for life. Just trying to find a purpose, acceptance, and deal with the challenges.
In my opinion, we are in a kind of, when I'm observed this project, AXON DAO, I feel like we are in kind of serendipity mode. I'm serious. And whatever we do, it just fits properly. Like it's correct. It's transparent and easy to understand, and it has meaning. And when you think about the general DeSci industry, it's also kind of serendipity mode, because we all are trying to do the same thing, and someday it's going to be just one ecosystem of functions where the projects will be the kings, just them, and it will be not even important who 5-7 years ago before create which part of the whole protocol, because nevertheless the protocol itself must be scientifically proven. Everything that we will create must be proper. Like even if we will have some thoughts or ideas that we forgot about something, we will have to go down, maybe break some paradigms scientifically, and assess what is the proper approach that we can come back and make the research. Because you can, for example, measure something in the wrong way, and then it induce a mistake, more errors, more delta value for your research. When I'm thinking about all this thing we do, I'm a scientist, or maybe even hardcore scientist, and I think that most of those things I know how to do them, and the other ones I don't know how to do them, but I can imagine how I would deliver them. One of those projects is like a long-term project that maybe in the future we will touch more. It's a Quantic, where we are talking about something like a system on chip, where you keep the algorithms of the certain area of the research around the healthcare, and you can put such a system in the hospital, not behind somewhere in the cloud. And all the things that we spoke about, the algorithms, the standardization, the best quality way of analyzing the data rapidly, can be put into some small device, can be set into the hospital and connected just right away with the data from patient recordings. You don't have to send that anywhere else. And hospital could rent a device like this just to keep it inside of the building. So they will prevent the data quality, they will prevent the privacy, and they will have, they don't have to buy huge computer server side or GPU or tensor or something to calculate that data. It's going to be one simple device you can rent and keep it in your hospital. And we have more ideas like this. We've met recently, really, there are also scientists who are approaching us on themselves. When we are studying something on ResearchGate, like Tarusha or me, we are finding, oh, this is cool. Like you touch one thing and there is another thing that comes from the other side. And they should make the research around this. And then we can take their research and put it on the side of ours and see, hey, this is like working together. We should do that stuff. So
And I think it's also, just to add on to that, Matt, I think that's also a beauty of DeSci, and maybe a potential challenge or current limitation is how do we get all the DeSci projects to collaborate and work together and to help each other? That also came out of the last Twitter Spaces, which I thought was a phenomenal idea.
I know how. Maybe someday I will tell you guys.
Okay, tell me. Tell me off camera.
It's basically about the protocol. The protocol in between the systems, projects, one standardized approach to handle data, to handle ownership of the IP, and to, you know, precisely calculate which scientist made what, in which you know, how much effort he put, so we can just focus on really researching something and not considering that I was like forgotten with some publication or some stuff like that.
And the real beauty I see of this whole thing, and maybe in the future or in the near future, is that when you participate in some sort of a clinical trial, that you have that data somehow that's yours, and that it can almost provide a royalty to whatever IP it addressed, so that over time it's almost like it's like a yielding return for you, because that data is being sourced, and every time it's being sourced, that, you know, there's a mechanism that provides value to that. So there's so many things in the future that can be done, but, you know, it kind of goes on the challenges of the things ahead that you know, we're gonna have to deal with.
That's good, though. I appreciate all of you guys taking your time to go through all of this with us. I'm sure the audience appreciates it a lot. Give a clear picture of what Axon DAO is and who you guys are. If you guys are watching this video and you appreciated this information, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and go check out all of their pages. They are constantly putting out updates and everything. So really props to you guys for being here and, again, paving the way.
I wanted to talk about the roadmap. I didn't include that in my response last time. So yeah.
Fire away.
Yeah, so a bit about our roadmap is we just launched AXGT on Pink Sale. That was our phase 2, or it is our phase 2 is going on right now at Pink Sale. Next, we're going to take the proceeds with that, and we're going to take with to use with Fjord Foundry. It's a type of LBP. It's a liquidity bootstrap protocol. It's essentially through balancers protocols, where they do it's like a reverse auction where they set the price high, and then they bring it into their protocol, so that you avoid bots, you avoid all kinds of crazy front running, you avoid all kinds of issues with volatility. And even though FOMO is a good thing for some people, it's not good for a long-term project. So that's why we're going with this, so that it will set a fair market price after the LVP begins, and then we'll have the liquidity to support all the efforts that we're doing with AXGT. So we hope to get it to a certain point that meets all the needs of the DAO that we envision it to be. So, you know, we're just going through these phases. So far, so good. Our first manual pre-sale that we did, we gained 12 ETH. I think we did pretty great with that. I think we sent to 130 emails or so. And since then we had over 4,000. And again, to date with Pink Sale, I haven't checked since we started this, but I think we sold almost a third of our hard cap, and I think we have about 4 days left. So yeah, we're doing well. I'm pretty happy with that. But slow processes and slow steps, and we're going to get these things done. And we're going to start adding to our team. We actually are adding a marketer to our team who's been great. We've added a few other great contributors who've added tremendous value to what we're doing. And so I feel like there's a good gelling coming on with us, with the community. And our AMAs are really a cool place for us to kind of share these ideas and just have just a general discussion. And I think those things are happening. Join our Discord, and just feel free to ask questions. We're new in a certain regard, we're old in a certain regard, but we feel free to join and talk to us about what we're doing and how we're doing it, because we share and your value for making this a good thing for everybody. So Yeah, I can answer any more questions about the roadmap specifically, but yeah, this is where we're headed.
No, I think it's outlined pretty well. You're getting the initial liquidity to be able to fund some science. You're going to have proposals coming in from connections of existing networking that's happened because you guys have a robust team in place. And then you will fund some science and hopefully get some IP NFTs within the treasury. So a very virtuous cycle there. I appreciate all of you guys again. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your time. We appreciate all you do for DeSci.
That was a lot of information thrown all at once at you guys. Hopefully you were able to follow everything. My mind is blown and I am extremely excited to see how that psychedelic research comes along and how they're able to actually quantify the impact on neural pathways in our brain. Hopefully this DAO has a lot of funding to go. You guys know time is your most valuable asset, so hopefully this video was worth investing it into. I will see you guys in the next video.